Happy Monday and welcome to a brand new week. You know how we do it. Fresh gist, sharp conversations, and always that Monday energy to kickstart your hustle. Today, we're talking about something big. They used big capital letters, and it is. The Nigerian government has just dropped a new secondary school curriculum, and guess what's inside? Digital literacy, artificial intelligence, entrepreneurship, and more. Yes, millions of students across Nigeria should be learning coding, robotics, freelancing, and even how to start businesses before they finish secondary school. And that starts from this new school year. So is Nigeria finally on the right path? We'll get into that shortly. But first, there's fire on the mountain in the energy sector. The Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, that's NUPENG, has said that it will indeed proceed with a nationwide strike today, despite last-minute interventions from the government. Now, NUPENG President William Saporia confirmed that the federal government has reached out to the union on the need to avert the strike. However, he insisted that the industrial action would go ahead pending the outcome of the meeting with the government today. Now, the strike is tied to a face-off with the Dangote Petroleum Refinery over its plan to deploy about 4,000 compressed natural gas trucks whose drivers, according to the union, are not allowed to join any labor union. Now, NUPENG accuses the Dangote Refinery of threatening the livelihoods of members of its petroleum tanker drivers branch and undermining workers' freedom to unionize, insisting that the newly recruited drivers are being forced to sign away their right to belong to any union. Now, the union calls this unconstitutional, anti-labor, and unacceptable. The federal government had called for a conciliation meeting in Abuja this morning, hoping to broker peace between NUPENG and the Dangote Group. But despite that, the union insists that the strike will continue until workers' rights are respected. Meanwhile, fuel marketers are already warning that scarcity could hit soon if the trucks stop lifting products. NUPENG said that it has held several meetings alongside the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners to persuade Dangote to reconsider. But its appeals were allegedly ignored, and on Friday, the 5th of September, the union announced that it will begin industrial action today, Monday, September 8th, 2025.
And now the National Labour Congress is also standing with NUPENG, issuing what they call a red alert to their affiliates. This solidarity comes as NLC and the federal government workers have demanded an urgent review of the national minimum wage. They insist that the current 70,000 naira is no longer sustainable due to the galloping inflation and the rising cost of food, transportation, housing, and other essential services. The acting general secretary of the NLC, Benson Upa, told NAN on Sunday that inflation has eroded the value of the 70,000 naira minimum wage, leaving many workers unable to meet basic needs. I don't know whether we should get into reactions before we get into
Let me just add one thing. As we're sitting here right now, FCT resident doctors have also begun a warning strike.
Okay.
I think we'll move into reactions now. Everybody should, even Nigerians, at this point, we too, Nigerian citizens, we should strike. But let's take those reactions first. Instead of working on how to reduce the prices of goods in the market so that the minimum wage can be enough to sustain the common man, you're fighting for an increase in the minimum wage, knowing fully well that it still won't be enough for survival. Misplaced priority, and that's to the NLC there. I always think of people with this kind salary when I calculate how much I spend on food weekly for just 2 people. Makes me wonder if people are really eating or they are really starving. My brain is correcting it as I read it. Even if they increase it to 1 million, as long as there's no price control in the market, it will never be enough. Because Nigerian traders will increase the price as the minimum wage goes up. Now to NUPENG. NUPENG is trying to monopolize the economy. There is freedom of association in the 1999 Constitution. Hashtag I stand with Dangote. Let me get this straight. NUPENG is threatening a strike from Monday to cripple the economy because Dangote circumvented their hostage handling of the fuel distribution system by doing the unthinkable with his acquisition of about 10,000 petrol distribution trucks to bypass hostile middlemen and reduce cost. This is typical of the Nigerian system. When someone tries to fix the system fights back in unethical ways to wreak havoc. Nigerians, being the emotional people that we are, will start rooting for these established unions who have them on chokehold. It will favor me and my family. My own is the Dangote Refinery, and other Dangote Group entities should set up a solid driving institute where drivers are trained appropriately. We cannot have 4,000 drivers not being part of a union drive dangerously on our roads regardless of the economic benefits. Safety first. And that's a good point in terms of, let's even see a different standard with those who might be driving. But I was pleasantly surprised at how much support is actually swinging the way of Dangote in this situation. Too many people feel like NUPENG and its members have held the country to ransom for too long and have fed fat, as they say, or eaten fat on the harsh circumstances that have befallen many Nigerians when it comes to the PMS conversation.
Most of the time, you know, the initial, whatever unions were created for, I just find out that a lot of them just change and morph into other things over time. Usually you say that the union is supposed to protect, you know, the workers' rights and everything, but you find out that politics have entered into unions. And you're wondering that, okay, whose purpose are you really fighting for at this time? Even if we keep asking for an increase in salaries, an increase and increase and increase, if there's no price control or regulation of some sort, you will still find out that the money that the increment will still not be enough to sustain anyone. So we really need to do better or find more realistic role. And there is freedom of association. That means you have every right to either join. It's just like somebody is a Muslim on this table and says, I should become a Muslim. I have a right to say, no, I don't want to be. And I have a right to become a herbalist if I want.
But the accusation from NUPENG is that they're not even given that choice. That the supposed thing is that they're supposedly having to sign either an NDA or some part of their contract says, again, supposedly and allegedly, that they cannot, if they're going to be a Dangote refinery driver, they cannot categorically join.
We cannot look at just because NUPENG said it. Every of those papers must come to us for scrutiny. Because everybody, a company is protecting their own interest. The people that work under them are trying to protect their own interest. So I think it's just like saying that, oh, you take a salary and you now find out that, oh, other people are earning better than you. It's because of your negotiation power sometimes. So we cannot just look at the workers alone. We have to look at the bigger picture so that everybody is equally represented. Not just because it is a Dangote. Everybody will now bring axes and let's see the papers that they were asked to sign. Because most of the time, you find out allegedly, and those that are firing this propaganda is for their own sake, and all of a sudden, you just find out that subtly, we never really saw the document.
I totally agree with Lolo, and I love what Dangote is doing. You know, I think he's trying to, you know, restructure the system. You know, he's trying to sieve out the bottlenecks, you know, and all that, because I agree with him when he also said, oh, I agree with people that actually said that, you know, NUPENG and the rest have actually held Nigerians to ransom for too long, right? Now, what I even read over the weekend is the fact that Dangote is trying to, you know,
bring some
No. What he's trying to do is
he's basically direct sales.
Yeah, direct sales. What do you call it? Delivery. Yes. Delivery. Order, and then it delivers to you
by their own trucks.
So that means filling station owners.
Having it.
Filling station owners will no longer have to rely on NUPENG, and it just makes me wonder. Somebody wants to invest in 10,000 CNG trucks, hire 4,000 people, and you're saying that he must give you access to those people. There are union dues to be paid. Let's not think that this is just Kini. There are union dues to be paid. So I'm going to invest in my business. Then you want to have some kind of influence and control because they belong to your union. And Lola makes a point about not just because it's Dangote. There have been complaints about the hold that unions, not just NUPENG, but unions in totality have in this country. And the truth is, unions, as you said, started off for the benefits of the worker. One of my biggest questions have always been, why is it just these unions? In other countries, you'll see at least 2, 3, 4 unions for the same industry.
And I don't see anything wrong with him saying that you will not join a union if you want to work with me, because there are other organizations who actually follow that person. I have worked in an organization that has told me that you are not allowed to join the union, so you either get with the program or you move.
I was just going there that if you agree with
what the law says.
I think it's a power abuse and a power grab, and it has been like that for decades. Change doesn't happen overnight, and we are very rigid when it comes to change in this country. Whether we like it or not, reading between the lines, it's a power thing, authority. I want to be in charge of. Lolo said something. You know, that when politics becomes involved, you don't know who you're serving anymore.
Yes.
So they muddied the waters, and in muddying the water, Dangote says, listen, because he has had experience with all these things, and he says, I want to bypass all this red tape. I want to bypass all these things and just deal with, I want to supply you this, I supply you, and move.
Exactly.
And let's cut out all the bottlenecks.
Yeah.
But as always, like I said, it's a power resistance struggle.
And you would actually know how they feel, you know, where they stand by, you know, what was happening before Dangote even came in. Every little thing, even when Dangote, you know, tried cutting down, you know, the cost of fuel, they would come and revolt.
The thing is, like, you know, this is the
interest has
first
been
time.
served when you think
Exactly.
about serving the workers' rights versus over serving the
company
rights
rights.
and serving the best interests of all Nigerians. This
But the
fuel,
thing-
I'm so
yeah.
sorry, Lord. This fuel situation, I've always said it. When things don't work in Nigeria, it's because people are
not
making money.
allowing it.
People are doing. It has never worked well. There has always been one catch or the other.
Yeah.
And now it's not to say that people don't have their issues with Dangote and how he enters industries as well. Those are issues. But in this
Those are
one
separate
particulation,
in
people are
this
able to
regard.
laser focus.
In this
And
regard, yes.
again, as I said, I was surprisingly
for me,
surprised at
I would
how
say-
he has how people on
Nigerians
his
have-
side
you see,
online. Yeah.
You know, when I think of this
tired.
industry, especially the petroleum sector, it's been held by government for a long time. NNPC has been in charge of so many things. But this is the first time, I want to start to be corrected, that you will see an individual get into the play of oil as an individual company. So it's like a unicorn or a new hybrid that everybody is trying to accommodate.
When was the last time you heard of NNPC?
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
Everybody is trying to accommodate him, and that is why all these bottlenecks, all these challenges are coming. It's any new industry somebody puts
There will be resistance.
they would always be pushed
And
back.
like Tolu
But
says,
if it's
people
not
are
a
making
company that
money
will
in there.
stand, if we're just being like robots or minions, you see everybody will just line up on the line, like, hey, because a private individual, he has to be doing something wrong.
Yep.
No, let us look at it holistically so that they are not just beating down something that is good in Nigeria. For once, we have had refineries for aeons that has not worked.
Yeah.
Now we have one private-owned one. If this one does well, do you know how many others can spring up?
but that's the thing. You're wresting power and money and financial whatever benefits from people's hands. And do you think people who have been feeding fat will sit and allow you to take food from their mouth and put stones?
Well, we've always said this, even Tolu said this like sometime last week, that Nigerians are the problem of Nigeria, because you know, even when someone comes up with the idea of moving Nigeria forward, trying to develop Nigeria, we are the ones who decide
don't
that
like
no,
change.
we do
I
not
think
like
we
change.
don't-
We
nobody
want to
likes
stay
change,
where
not
we
just
are.
Nigerians. And let's not forget that the NLC, who is now going to be in solidarity with NUPENG, has said they've sent a red alert to all their affiliates. So this might become bigger than it is. When I was coming in, I was checking to see, not a lot of fuel stations were closed and there wasn't a lot of crowd or queue. We don't know how that could look in the next 2-3 days or even by later today, depending on the lifting, but we know that there's supposed to be a meeting with the federal government and all parties involved. But let's go back very quickly before we go on a break to the NLC. 70,000 is not enough. Who thought it was enough? Wait. We can separate. No, we need to separate NLC and the 70,000. Who first thought that the 70,000 was enough when it was even announced?
No, but even the NLC knew that it wasn't enough, because they were aiming for 200 and something thousand. But we were shocked. We were all shocked when they settled for 70,000.
No, the thing I want to even ask that this almighty NLC, please show me historically when they have really gotten anything.
Oh no, they
And
have.
No, I get what Lola's
What are
coming
they?
from.
What have they really done? Half of the time we come on a strike. government, they have closed-door meetings,
and then before
we
you
come
know
to
it,
one
Nigerians, I
agreement.
understand where Lolo is coming from.
So where is the
It seems
pushback really?
You know, Nigerians have now
agreed,
lost faith with NLC, and Lolo keeps saying, she has said it on this table before. Remember, even when we had the discussion leading up to 70,000 naira agreed minimum wage on this table, Tolu said, are we ready for the ripple effects that are going to come with the 70,000? That means if you're getting domestic help at home,
Yes, I
minimum
remember.
wage translates to 70K.
Can we pay that?
Now we're saying that minimum wage isn't enough. Do you know what that means? So even if we keep moving to 90,000 minimum wage or 120,000 minimum wage, does it change anything? Price needs to stabilize. So I was just, in fact, when we're reading all the reactions, I was like, yep. All the reactions were just making sense.
That people said when they came out of the meeting and announced they agreed to a 70,000 minimum wage. It wasn't the only thing they agreed to, but people were saying, what are your demands in terms of, I don't necessarily, I'm not a price control person. I believe in liberal and free markets, but I understand. What are your demands in terms of price control? What are your demands in terms of transportation? What are your demands in terms of security so that food, the farmers can go to the farm and then food will come down? So it looks like we're stuck on this price of this 70,000, but there's so many things around whatever minimum wage Nigeria agrees to that can affect the value of the minimum wage, that can affect its ability to actually deliver on being a normal standard. But that's a story for another day.
Anyway,
they already agreed to 3 years. I think they should just sit it out and wait until the 3-year agreement expires. Yes, now before they
wasn't there an agreement before they signed?
I don't know. The reason I'm saying 3 years is I agree with that tweet that somebody said that the amount of money she spends weekly to feed a family of just two. Are people really eating
or
they really
starving?
Should we go into that conversation?
If you pay them 500K,
we are going on a short break because we're going to be switching gear. When we come back, we have a very interesting discussion to have with Dr. Joy Issa, education consultant and president of the Issa School of Education. She will be helping us to unpack Nigeria's bold new curriculum. We've discussed it on this table. Now we are going to be having digital literacy, artificial intelligence, entrepreneurship, you know, everything that we're asking for, and everything sounds exciting. But is the system really ready? We'll, you know, dig into all this when we come back from this break. Do stay tuned.
Many thanks for staying with us. Join the conversation on all our social media platforms. We are simply at News Central TV. So, Nigeria's education system is about to undergo a historic shake-up. From September this year, school session, digital literacy and coding will become compulsory in junior secondary schools. Forget just Microsoft Word and Excel. Students will now code in Scratch and Python and even dabble in robotics. At the senior level, the bar is even higher because there's programming, there's AI, artificial intelligence, there's robotics, there's data science, there's cybersecurity and digital entrepreneurship. Those will be part of everyday learning. Students must also complete real-world research projects with data collection, analysis, and defense. The question is, why now? For years, experts have warned that Nigeria's workforce isn't ready for the future. This reform is meant to close that gap while aligning with the government's National Digital Economy Policy of 2020 to 2030 and the 3 Million Technical Talent Program. But here's the catch. Adult literacy is still around 63%. Adult digital literacy is far lower, and many schools don't even have computers, internet, or reliable power. So, is this a bold reform? Is this bold reform a game changer, or it's a leap before we can walk? These are the conversations we'll be having on this table today.
All right,
so ladies, what do you think?
Sorry, we're still looking forward to being joined by Dr. Joy Issa, but that will happen in just a moment. So let's just get an idea of what... The only thing I heard is it was announced at the end of August.
Yes.
School starts. Some kids have started school this week. My daughter starts school next week.
Next week, yeah.
And I'm just wondering to myself, you announced it at the end of August. You're implementing it. How?
Maybe they had implemented it before it became popular amongst us.
You know, the first
because they should have prepared the schools. I doubt if this is just coming, as Tolu said, it will be very unfair on the schools because they won't have had adequate time to prepare. Won't they recruit teachers? Won't they adjust, you know, so many things in the school, even infrastructure they might need to build places where they will be able to accommodate some of these teachings and new stuff. So if they're just announcing in August and they expect it to start in September, I think that would be, except the schools have all been aware.
Yes.
Maybe under G, they've been planning, they just wanted to surprise us, you know, with a big announcement. That I can agree to. But if it's just this shotgun thing, I'm wondering, would it be effective, or they just saying it for saying sake?
So let's see if our education consultant can answer that question. Dr. Joy Issa, are you with us now? We seem to be having some audio issues there. We'll get that sorted out and bring Dr. Joy Issa into the conversation once we can sort the audio. But so you've talked about the preparation issue around it. Even just the teachers, the teachers to teach, as you said, are part of the preparation. But I'm also worried about the potential for this to even create a wider educational access gap. So my daughter's already been doing coding and robotics, programming. She has laptop. There are schools that are not even set up for any of that. So school has it, then I do whatever I want to do as extra on my own. But when you have this as an educational policy, you don't have the classroom for it. You don't have the teacher for it in certain parts of the country. Are we not also widening the gap while helping some others succeed more? But also, and I'm not saying that it has to, we have to wait until everybody can have it, but I hope we acknowledge the fact that this could also possibly lead to a wider gap in educational access.
Well, let's not also forget that, you know,
Who's checking that they can hear me?
Dr. Joy! Dr. Issa, we can hear you now.
Oh, wonderful.
Fantastic. Excited. Thank you so much for joining us. I think Lola will pick up from there.
Yes, I'm just so happy to see you, Dr. Issa. And when we heard this news, we were all ecstatic because I know you've been working tirelessly behind the scenes. Dr. Issa, you know, this new curriculum is being hailed as a game changer. You know, we have all the juicy things in it: digital literacy, AI, entrepreneurship, and now everything is being formally introduced. How revolutionary is this shift for Nigeria's junior secondary and senior secondary school students and schools generally? Does this revamped curriculum truly strike the right balance between theoretical foundation and hands-on learning? Because, you know, there's that divide.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so excited that finally we have these elements included in our curriculum for our young people, so that the divide between the private sector and the public sector can begin to be closed up. And we can have, yes, the entrepreneurship, the digital literacy, AI, and all those juicy subjects that we love. It is amazing. Slight challenge though, announcing it 2 weeks ago, or, you know, just shortly, and then getting the children to start school. Yes, obviously it's a challenge. But I want to say that I don't think this is a time for the public or the parents to panic. Because when you roll out a curriculum, there is a pilot year. There's the year for the publishers to republish the books. Schemes of work need to be written up, and such. And those things take 2 to 3 years, in other countries, sometimes 4 years, for the new curriculum to become tested. So the students writing WAEC this year should not be tested on the new curriculum because they haven't had the 3 years of instruction leading up to it. The exam bodies need to change and update the subjects and include them in WAEC. So it will take time for those reforms to, for the exam bodies to catch up with the Ministry of Education's release. However, very excited that finally we're here. Finally, we can get that divide between the public schools and the private schools to begin to close up. So I'm really ecstatic that we're finally here.
All right, so we are at this destination that you and many of us are excited about, but there's still reality. So according to the World Bank's collection of development indicators, in 2021, there were over 13 million pupils enrolled in secondary education in Nigeria, representing total enrollments in both public and private secondary schools across the country. There are also said to be over 40,000 secondary schools in the country, but that number could change. We see a lot of schools come and go, with more than 11,000 public schools and over 28,500 private schools, 377 technical and vocational schools, and 91 special needs schools. Not enough. But the number of secondary school teachers has been very difficult to lay my hands on. We did the research, we're looking, trying to see, especially at that level, but we weren't able to get it. So now, while the curriculum looks progressive, we know many public schools still lack computers. Look at what's in front of you, the picture there. They still lack access to the internet or even steady electricity. So how do we realistically bridge this digital divide so no child is left behind?
We have to start with the policy reform, and which is why the ministry is saying, look, guys, this is what we're going to do differently. Now, allocations from UBEC, for example, need to then be reviewed. What are the allocations from UBEC being distributed towards? I seem to remember reading something His Excellency the President urged SUBEB, which is the state's universal basic education platforms, to partner with UBEC to make sure they get the funding they need to implement reformation. Because prior to now, SUBEB, the states could only get funding from the federal allocation if they matched that funding. And so a lot of states did not have the match funding, and so they couldn't access money for training, money for resources and infrastructural development. So I seem to remember reading where His Excellency said, look, guys, can we just let the states get on with what they have? Can you release the money over to them? Because there are billions sitting down in UBEC not doing anything because the states cannot match that. So if that funding is released, for example, then with a clearly laid out plan, I have to say, with the clearly laid out plan, then the reform can begin to be implemented systematically. Having said all of these things, there is a huge gap between rural schools, suburban schools, and urban communities. The schools in the rural communities are like 50 years behind the schools in the cities. Then you have the divide between public schools and private schools. Even the low-budget private schools have much more access than schools in the rural communities. So that is a big divide that needs to be addressed, and can only be addressed with, systematic integration or systematic reformation. Having said that, you don't jeopardize one part of society for another.
Yes.
So in the areas where you can begin to implement, AI and entrepreneurship, where you have well-meaning Nigerian companies that are partnering with some of these private schools, now they know, okay, now you can send in the computers. Now you can set up teacher training, because the teachers don't have the skills. In the NCE curriculum, this is my pet peeve. While we're changing the curriculum for secondary school, what have we done with NCE curriculum? Do the teachers now have the skills?
All right.
I like that.
It is our pet peeve.
Yes, indeed.
Apologies. Please stay with us. We need to go on a commercial break. We'll be back in a bit. Thank you for staying with us. If you just joined us, we're talking about the new secondary school curriculum, which is set to, commence this month. And we've had Dr. Joy Issa, who is a teacher, education consultant, and president of the Issa School of Education with us. Thank you for staying with us, Dr. Issa. Now, just before the break, you're talking about how, there's a huge digital divide problem in Nigeria. And we all know that, there's a significant gap in access when you come to underserved areas, when it comes to the use of digital technologies, particularly between urban and rural areas across socioeconomic lines. Now, this is actually fueled by factors like high cost of devices and data, limited digital literacy, poor infrastructure, especially electricity, and a disproportionate impact on women and also low-income groups. Now, thinking of this disparity, we know it hinders economic development, education, and even access to essential services. And you're talking about, teachers earlier, but now we want to get into AI and coding and also digital entrepreneurship, which requires teachers with specialized knowledge. So where are the teachers who are going to drive this policy, especially in the underserved areas?
That's a great question. I think the short answer is collaboration. We need partners. This is now the time for all the well-meaning Nigerians who all want to do something to rise up and actually do something. This is the opportunity for people to say, oh, we are a tech company, we can provide crash AI courses, short certificates, micro credentials for our teachers in this community, that community, so that they can support. Just last week, I delivered a paper at the Federal University of Education in Zaria, virtually. And in part of my presentation, I said, look, micro credentials are the way to go. People are working, so they can't take out 2 years to go and study a diploma in AI integration. But a micro credential that can be delivered virtually, that can be done in 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, can upskill our teachers really quickly so that they can deliver the curriculum. It is radical, we know. And traditionally, we're not very good, the academia, we're not very good at radical changes. We're one of the slowest sectors in the world. We take time and we have to check and check and check. Meanwhile, the tech people have run ahead of us. So we are in a fix in terms of upskilling the teachers to catch up with this reform. But the truth is, if you don't put one foot in front of the other, you will not begin the walk. So the minister is correct to say, jump into the deep end, get on with it. However, it is going to take a few years, realistically, for every school in every area to catch up. The schools in urban areas will be, the first people through the door. The private schools will be the first ones through that door because they invest in, continuous professional development for their staff. That's not government directed, as it were. However, our NCEs, again, need to catch up. We need more universities that are focused on technology, for example, to include departments for education, because they're ahead. So think of any of the federal universities of technology, can they throw in some education courses there so that the people who graduate from those courses can be the STEM teachers, can be the science teachers, can be the coding and the AI teachers to support what is going on now. That is when we have proper societal reform, where every arm of society is contributing to educating our young people. So no single sector can do this alone. The minister has said, get on with it, and we will do our best. But I think parents, all of us should be aware that this is going to take time. At least 3 years before the children can even write, standardized exams on these courses.
All right, so Dr. Issa, we all know, it's exciting, the inclusion of AI and robotics, yeah? But some may argue it feels far from our daily reality. So how would we be able to contextualize these subjects introduced in schools from this month? Because from, I think, next week, 15th, schools start across the country. So how do we contextualize these subjects so that they're not abstract, yet connected to Nigerian challenges like health, agriculture, security?
AI is already in use in a number of schools, I have to say. So you have lots of AI-enabled platforms, Grammarly, that you use to check assessment results, Google Classrooms, a lot of these things are already AI-enabled platforms. And so it's not like AI is going to be taught separate from the platforms. The platforms are AI-enabled and they're being rolled out. The back end of it, the technology behind it, is what we're bringing to the fore, saying, boys and girls, you need to know how these things work so that you can innovate. A few years ago, the 4 C's of the 21st century, or of 21st century learning, were introduced into the curriculum: collaboration, communication, creativity and innovation, critical thinking and problem solving. Those are like the foundations on which you can layer AI. Having said that, technology is everywhere. Most teachers have a smartphone. Most young people have access to a smartphone. And so understanding the ethical use of technology, so you're not using it to cheat, but you're using it to do some research, and then you're able to synthesize that research and write it out in an exam, paper, or, in class as homework. That is a skill that our children need to learn, because it is when they have those skills, they have the knowledge. So AI helps you gather the knowledge, right? But you need to be able to synthesize the information. It is a skill. And so highlighting this or bringing these things to the fore then makes it easier to train our young people to deliver as independent adults, when they go for these jobs that the workers are complaining they're not, prepared enough for. Reformation takes time. I just want to say, it takes time. The fact that the government has released this does not mean I need to go find, where am I going to find the textbooks? Where are we supposed to find these things? Yes, I have, people like us, we have Google, we have, online platforms and all, but we have to rewrite everything. Imagine, all our schemes are gone. We have to rewrite, well, not all. We need new schemes. We need to chuck some of the old subjects. In subjects like, I love the cultural heritage one. So where you have history and civics education and all collapsed into one. That's brilliant, fantastic idea. But you have just tossed 4 subjects out the window. Yeah. You have just tossed 4 sets of textbooks that parents have already bought. Okay. And now they're wondering what to do with themselves.
Yeah.
All right, now, Dr. Issa, let's look at, curriculum depth and also soft skills. While we're grateful that the curriculum now includes STEM and tech-focused subjects, are vital soft skills like critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration being intentionally included into learning, or are they still treated as, optional add-ons? And also for entrepreneurship, is it embedded as a mindset across disciplines, or is it merely another subject to tick off the list?
I love the way you've presented that. Unfortunately, for some, it will be merely another subject to tick off. But Nigerians are entrepreneurial. And I think it's beautiful that we can harness our innate talents. And, in schools, Nigerians are thriving. Nigeria as a country is thriving on SMEs. And, medium MSMEs as well. So, pulling that into school and getting the young people to see, look, hard work is important. You need to collaborate with other people. You can't do this alone. Yeah. You need to learn how to communicate. You need to think about what this business is going to look like and how you're going to make it happen. These skills are already embedded in the normal subjects. You will find in most schools across Lagos, across most of the metropolitan cities, the 4 C's have been embedded in the curriculum for a long time. So children now, more than in the past, will speak to themselves in class, will collaborate on some sort of assignment, some sort of mini project and all. That has become part of the system. Yeah. Where there's a major challenge is in the critical thinking, because you still have teachers who think they must be the ones to tell the children what to do. Yeah. They need to be the ones to form the notes and give the children to copy. In my most recent book, is titled Upgrade, Moving from Note Copying to Critical Thinking, I write that we, the teachers, need that mindset shift. The fact that we were taught to copy notes in 1945, I say 1945 a lot, does not mean that should happen now. We have printers, we have photocopy machines. Why are we still making children look at the board and copy notes when they have, they have textbooks? They have, antiquated practices must be removed, and we need to grow and evolve from those to more modern practices. So the only way to do this is say, take the AI, take the laptop, take these tools. Guys, you need to move. And if the government doesn't insist, we will have teachers who are very comfortable, in their antiquated practices. So I love the push. This push, though, needs to be timed and planned so that final exam is not happening this year. We cannot have children writing WAEC on these subjects this year. That would be gross injustice. Okay. They need 3 years to go over a curriculum because it's SS1, SS2, SS3, GS1, GS2, GS3. Yeah. And then you're ready for your final, exit point.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Issa, just hold on. We have a final break to take, but when we come back, we'll look at preparation. We'll look at how to make this successful even in this 1 year and help it to lay a foundation for the years to come. This is Just Siri. We'll be right back.
Thank you very much for staying with us so far. We are on the home stretch now, and we're still discussing the new curriculum for the for the junior and secondary school, and we're discussing with Dr. Issa. Thank you very much for staying with us, ma'am. We've spoken to you many times about the need for a national curriculum review, and here it is. Thank God it's happening for the students. We're hoping that
It's
it's going to
happening in my
happen.
lifetime.
Yeah. We're hoping that it will happen for the teachers also, because what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Exactly.
Some might say that when a gift toss is given, you look at the mouth. We don't want this to just be a policy announced barely like 2 weeks before it's supposed to be implemented, because we talk about implementation because Nigeria is a peculiar country. We're looking at depth. We're looking at practical readiness of the students. And you know that our country, we have to look at all our limitations and challenges. You might say that, oh, they need 3 years. And we might see a flip and they say, okay, we just want everybody to just keep going full throttle. So what do we want to do about implementation, which is a major challenge for us as a country? Then depth. That's another thing, to be sure that, you know, where the world is, we might not be able to even get there in these 3 years. We might just use these 3 years to catch up. And how about readiness for the students? Because this means more computers, more teachers, more maybe buying of apps and maybe tabs. There's a lot of things to put into consideration. What do you think about all these 3 things?
Well, firstly, I would say we need the phased approach, which is why I'm saying the 3 years. So you would start with your entry points, your JS1 and your SS1. And by the time they're getting to their exam year, that's the 3rd year. And then that allows for the depth of implementation. And it gives you like a pilot. So you say, okay, is this working? Is this what we want? You know, how can we find the resources we need? Because then you need resource allocation. So starting off with your entry points, JS1, SS1, and then phasing up would make it easier to allocate resources, because we don't have all the money in the world.
No.
Okay.
We need accelerated teacher training. Again, like I said earlier, those micro credentials really, really quickly. We must upskill the teachers like faster than the speed of light if possible. So NCEs, NUT, Nigerian Universities Commission, the Nigerian Committee also of Colleges of Education, NCCE, that is responsible for licensing the NCEs, needs to immediately pick this up and say, right, what do our colleges need to do differently? What micro-credentials can happen? Because we don't have, like I said, we don't have 3 years to teach the teachers what to do. Teachers are in front of the children. What are they supposed to do? I used to be a physics teacher, now you want me to teach STEM? How do I make that transition? I used to be a civics teacher or social studies, now you want me to teach cultural heritage. I used to be a business studies teacher, now you want me to teach entrepreneurship. I can't just switch, I need time. So this is where public-private partnership comes in. Government, can we partner with the existing organizations? There are schools already teaching these things. The business schools, the economics, the departments, get them to give you the micro-credentials and partner with them. So the NCEs don't have to do it alone. And that way, everyone is working towards this desired goal of curriculum reform, you know, students changing immediately, and all of that. And then, honestly, the children are digital natives. They're already doing some of these things on their own. It will increase the levels of engagement in class. I firmly believe that with this reform, the levels of student engagement will increase because the number of subjects have reduced. So now I don't have to learn 14, 15 subjects. I can narrow down and focus on 12. In senior secondary school, I can focus on 8 or 9. I remember for my son, because he had too many issues, I crashed his GCSE subjects. He only wrote 6. And the rest were some practical courses that called BTech, and in one of the private schools in Nigeria. Because I said, look, what are the core skills that this young man needs to be an independent adult to go to university? You need 5 credits. Let's throw one more in so we have 6. So I love the fact that the number of subjects required have dropped to 9, between 8 and 9. Perfect. So we can go deeper. Our levels of conceptual understanding can increase. Aha! We can be more practical because we now have more time on the timetable. Fantastic. We don't need as many teachers because now they can hone in their skills and improve themselves even better.
Okay.
So I love the reform. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So Dr. Issa, does this have the potential to actually widen education access then? Because, I mean, there's already a disparity in education across regions. So could this succeed but also have a negative impact on those who are already in disadvantaged situations when it comes to education?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The gap between the private and the public schools will reduce because now the government's saying everybody has to do STEM, AI, entrepreneurship, and all these things. Brilliant. But access, as we know, is not equitable. So those in the underserved communities that have no electricity, I mean, there are communities where the girls don't go to school during their periods because there are no facilities. There's no bathrooms, there's no privacy. So you don't go to school. So there's a time every single month when these girls cannot go to school. Yeah. Then you don't have computers, you don't have power. And these children are supposed to be, they can't learn at the same pace. Yeah. They cannot access the same knowledge. So that divide, that learning gap is unfortunately going to be widened if we do not cascade the power down to the local governments. I think that local government chairmen should be given some sort of empowerment so that they can drive the implementation of educational reforms. Because right now, a lot of it is centrally driven. Yeah. So if we can decentralize as much as possible and give them direct responsibility to the suburbs and not even the state government, at the local government levels, then I think, we could bridge it. But unfortunately, that gap is going to widen.
Yeah. All right, so a little bit of something for us to note as a concern. But overall, Dr. Issa, you seem very excited about this. I just love to see that, especially after all the conversations we have highlighting the need for this and highlighting issues around, as you said, NCE, teacher education as well. NCE is personal for me. My parents did NCE very, very long time ago, so I've heard about it. I understand the concept and why it's still very much a necessary part of our education and curriculum today. But Dr. Issa, we're going to let you go. We know you're in Enugu for some official business.
You very much.
You continue to lend your voice to this, and we always appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, and that's as much as we can take today. The new national curriculum is clearly very ambitious. Coding, AI, entrepreneurship, and even mental health are now on the table. And it clearly is past time that Nigeria addresses the gaps in how our children are being taught. But the big test isn't just what's written in policy. It's what happens in classrooms across Nigeria. Will this be the moment our education system finally catches up with the demands of the 21st century, or another bold idea that struggles to take root? Only time and real investments will tell. But we will be on the streets because we want to know what you think ahead of school resumption. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a fantastic day. Bye for now.